While the world grapples with major wars, power transitions, and diplomatic upheavals, another kind of battle quietly unfolds, one not fought with weapons or policies, but with dignity and self-worth. Amid the glitter of global pageantry, we are reminded that the fight for respect often speaks louder than the fight for the crown itself. In an age where women no longer accept beauty if it comes at the cost of their honor, the Miss Universe stage has become a mirror of something far deeper. A demand for humanity before perfection, for respect before applause. What does it mean to be beautiful in a world that still measures worth by compliance? And at what point does grace mean standing up and not standing still? This is the Flash News. These and many more will discuss. Welcome to Undaunted Flash News. I am Star Smart. Stay with us. Focusing first on the Cameroons, we see that tension is deepening across the Cameroons as 9 members of the United States Congress have officially written to Secretary of State Marco Rubio urging Washington to hold those responsible for grave human rights violation in La République du Cameroun accountable. We see that in the letter dated November 4th, 2025, the United States lawmakers expressed deep concern over the post-election crisis following French Cameroon's October 12th presidential polls, which they described as marred by irregularities, intimidation, and violence. They called for the immediate release of political prisoners accountable for crimes by security forces, the accountability of these crimes, and an inclusive political dialogue mediated by regional or international partners to restore peace and legitimacy. The letter also warned that ongoing instability could threaten regional security in Central Africa, compromise U.S. counterterrorism efforts, and further erode the democratic values in Cameroon. Meanwhile, inside Ambazonia, the Ambazonian State Army of Dongomatum County has reinforced the border blockade at Mbunso, tightening control as part of the Nkambe isolation policy. Well, let's take a look at this video from the Dongomatum County Ambazonian State Army, who are preserving the Operation Final Push decrees.
Yeah, any money president, now they blood them this. Now we get to Bush Rambo, or the same, now blood them this. Now that attack, then when I wait, my show now. When I see them, when I see God, favor them for God, no, when I see them. Wait, one of those is Sam. When I see them, no. When I see them. When I see them, no. Look, no. One of the Sam. Now they don't, now them don't. When I say they don't look like Ghana, them Russian. One of the Sam. Sam. See. When I see them now. Sam. When I see them. They don't come to the Ghana for you. When I see them now. We don't do them, eh? Now, bully them over the ghetto. We don't do them. When I don't see them now. I don't see them now. She should not.
Well, that's a video showing the irregularities that followed the French Cameroon's election. But then we see the Ambazonian State Army of Dongomatum County in active combat with the colonial forces as upholding the decree set out during on Tuesday of the 4th of Tuesday. We'll be back after this break.
Thousands and thousands of Christians are being killed. Radical Islamists are responsible for this mess.
She was participating. We see the Dongamatu County Ambazonian State Army there reinforcing the border blockade, and this follows last week's nationwide directive under Operation Final Push, announced by General Hardknock, declaring a total shutdown of all borders between Ambazonia and French Cameroun, even though it left open borders between southern Cameroun and Nigeria. Now, the move comes amid fears that the post-election unrest in Yaoundé could spill into Ambazonian territory. The leaders of the liberation movement under Dr. Samuel Ikone Sako say this blockade is both a defensive measure and a sovereign declaration, a reaffirmation that Ambazonia remains a self-governing nation, unwilling to be drawn into the chaos consuming its neighbor, French Cameroun. Now, observers say the mounting pressure from Washington, coupled with the southern Cameroun's Ambazonia firm territorial stance, it marks a turning point in the political equation of the Cameroons, one that could redefine both accountability and sovereignty in the region. Now, we see the nation of Ambazonia in that news, but then over to its neighbor, Nigeria. President Donald Trump's attention has also been called there, as he announced that he was placing Nigeria on the country of particular concern list under the International Religious Freedom Act, citing what he described as an existential threat to Christians in Nigeria and the government's failure to prevent large-scale violence. He also instructed the Pentagon to prepare for possible military action and warned that the United States aid could be cut off if Abuja did not act.
Voter, I am hereby making Nigeria a country of particular concern. That's a legal definition. When the Christians or any such group is slaughtered, like is happening in Nigeria, 3,100 versus 4,476 worldwide. What horrible numbers. Something has to be done. I am asking Congressman Riley Moore, together with Chairman Tom Cole and the House Appropriations Committee, to immediately look into this matter and to report back to me. And I mean like immediately. The United States cannot stand by while such atrocities are happening in Nigeria and numerous other countries. It's not only Nigeria, it's all over. We stand ready, willing, and able to save our great Christian population around the world. This is not going to happen. The killing of Christians is not going to happen.
Now, the move follows sustained pressure from the United States lawmakers and Christian advocacy groups pointing to attacks by Islamist militias. Let's take a look at one such video of a Nigerian, Reverend Ezekiel Dachoma, calling on Trump and showing the atrocities and the killings of Christians in Nigeria.
We are tired to be outside performing burial every day, and they expect us to silence. Now is an order. Nigerian government came out openly and denied there is no massacre, there is no genocide of Christians in Nigeria, and look at it today. Is there any Muslim here? United Nations, I know you're watching it. American Senate, you are watching what I'm doing, I'm saying here. Special advisor to Trump, now, please tell Trump to save our life in Nigeria. They are killing Christians in Nigeria, massacre Christians. If they say they kill Muslims, Muslims are being killed. By who? By Muslims.
Well, diplomatic frictions flared on November 5th when Abuja publicly rejected the United States Department's placement of Nigeria on the country of particular concern list for alleged religious freedom abuses. Nigerian officials described the designation as based on misinformation and faulty data, arguing that many attacks cited in the United States statement are driven by banditry, terrorism, and communal conflict rather than state-sponsored religious persecution. But then we're seeing an interview while we were getting the explanation from a Nigerian, a fellow who for African studies, who talked about the Nigerian ongoing deaths. He tried to clarify that and called it more of both religious attack. But then let's take a listen to him.
Let's take the first dimension. The president is not wrong to say that Christians are being targeted. There's plenty of evidence to support that. What is also true, the important word there being also, is that Muslims are also being targeted, non-believers are also being targeted, which leads us to the question, who is doing the targeting and why? The group that is doing the targeting is Boko Haram, whose name is Western education is forbidden.
Well, we got that interview there, courtesy of France 24, and that is a Nigerian senior fellow for African Studies, CFR, who's living in Washington. That is, he goes by the name Ebenezer Obadere. He talks about what is going on in Nigeria, and in his term, he believes it is not just Christians who are being killed, but also Muslims who are killed by Boko Haram for tagging these people whom they massacre as infidels. But in Washington says the label is intended to pressure governments to protect vulnerable faith communities and hold perpetrators to account. Abuja sees it as an unwelcome intervention that risks politicizing Nigeria's complex security landscape. The role has immediate practical stakes. It could affect security cooperation on counter-terrorism, international assistance, and trade ties, all crucial as Nigeria confronts Boko Haram's stages of violence in the north and localized communal clashes elsewhere. Analysts watching West Africa say this episode illustrates a growing trend, rising sovereign sensitivity in major African states towards Western naming and shaming tactics. The diplomatic path ahead will test whether both capitals prioritize cooperation against violent extremism or allow reputational politics to fray essential security partnership. And while that report on Nigeria's Christian genocide as alleged leaves the question hanging, if there is a fear of national sovereignty should the continued killing of a particular sect continue. We head on to America, where we see a generational and ideological shift in America's municipal politics, which was underlined this week when Zoran Mamdani captured New York City's mayoralty in a race watched around the globe. Mamdani, a young progressive leader whose background and platform emphasized tenant protections, ambitious affordability measures, police reforms, and climate action, becomes the city's first Muslim mayor and one of the youngest figures to lead the metropolis. His campaign's grassroots energy and policy focus on social equity resonated with a broad coalition of voters, wary of entrenched interest, a dynamic that analysts say mirrors similar progressive upsets in other global cities. Observers note two strategic implications. First, major urban policy debates, housing, transit, labor, they may rapidly shift from centrist compromise to bolder, redistributive experiments. Second, Mamdani's win reinforces the political leverage of younger, more diverse electorates in shaping national debate. For international audiences, a Mamdani administration will be watched for how it navigates migration, global finance ties, and city-level climate diplomacy, areas where New York's policy choices often ripple beyond the United States borders. Now expect early executive orders and high-profile initiatives in the first 100 days aimed at signaling those priorities. Now away from the politics, we see in the pageantry world, a pre-pageant session ceremony in Thailand turned into a global controversy after Miss Universe Thailand director Nawat Itsaragrisil publicly berated Miss Mexico Fatima Bosch over a promotional shoot, calling her a dom or domhead in remarks captured on a live stream and heard around the globe. Let's take a listen to that.
Not about you, not about you.
It's not about me, it's about all the people that I represent.
I didn't give you opportunity to talk. Please keep polite for me. I still talking. Listen. I still keep talking to everybody while you stand up to talk to me.
Because I have a voice, and it's not for everybody to know. If you have a problem...
No, you have a voice, but you have to respect. The voice.
You are not respecting me as a woman.
What? Mama, why you stand up?
Because I have...
Where's the gun? Security. No, just leave it here. Stop. Stop. Security. Pick the door. Stop.
To her confrontation, the director had called it dumb of her and her being a dumbhead for following her manager's directives to not be present at the promotional shoot. But then Fatima Bosch stood up to defend herself, saying she would not be silenced and that she represents her nation with dignity. Several contestants, including the reigning Miss Universe and participants from Latin America, Europe, and the Middle East, all walked out in solidarity after the director Nawat asked Miss Mexico to be escorted out by the security. Now, we see another video, right in the video we saw Fatima, who represented Mexico, speaking up against Nawat, the pageant director, and we saw contestants leaving just after.
You have all my respect. I truly love Thailand. I respect all of you. I think that you're amazing people. But what just your director did is not respectful. He called me dumb because he had problems with the organization. And I think that's not fair because I'm here and I do everything okay. I don't mess with anyone. I just try to be kind. I'm trying to give my best. And he just shot me and he just said to me and shut up and a lot of different things. And I think that the world needs to see this because we are empowered women and this is a platform for our voice. And no one can shut our voice and no one will do that to me. And I hope that everyone at home, every woman, doesn't matter if you have a big dream, if you have a crown, if that's take away your dignity, you need to go. Thank you.
We see in the first clip that their exchange sends shockwaves across social media and traditional outlets. How the incident unfolded. It's Sarah Grisil Nawat confronted Bosch about her absence from an unofficial sponsorship shoot and publicly accused her of not supporting host country promotions. Bosch pushed back, insisting on mutual respect and saying she would not be diminished, especially after he used the word dumb and dumbhead. The dispute escalated in front of dozens of contestants, as you saw. The viral footage shows organizers and staff visibly alarmed. Multiple delegates left the room in protest rather than allow public humiliation to stand. To Miss Universe organization, it responded rapidly. Its president, Raul Rocha Kamtu, and the MUO executive team denounced the public humiliation, ordered the senior MU executives to Thailand to take charge and make clear they will not accept behavior that violated the platform's stated values of dignity and empowerment. Now, under that pressure, Grisil issued an apology and was publicly restricted from broader pageant duties. Well, let's take a listen to the director rendering an apology after the whole commotion went viral.
I am the human. Sometimes I cannot control. But by the way, I have not intend to harm anyone. Because I respect all of you, but sometimes I have to say, I am so sorry it's happened. I want to give this opportunity to, first, I have to apologize for the delegate. If anyone affected and not comfortable, it happened. I'm so sorry.
The MUO said it would investigate and that the organization stands with delegates who were disrespected. Well, Fatima Bosch, Miss Mexico, has since addressed the media in interviews and social posts, telling our country that she is not afraid to make her voice heard, insisting the pageant must be a platform for causes and that contestants are not dolls to be humiliated. The episode has become a flashpoint about modern pageantry. Critics say it exposed a power imbalance that even a glitzy commercial contest cannot hide. While supporters argue, the swift MUO response shows that public accountability can work when contestants and audiences mobilize. Expect follow-ups, formal MUO findings, potential sanctions, and a larger conversation about organizations' power over contestants in global events are what we'll look forward in the coming days. But then away from this wave, we see in Israel, the uneasy pause in fighting between Israel and Hamas is being used by both statesmen and strategists to manage war damage and complex diplomacy. Israeli authorities have reported limited hostage and remains exchange and are simultaneously rolling out economic measures to stabilize affected regions and shore up finances ahead of reconstruction, moves that include preparation for an international bond sale in early 2026 and plans for partial privatization in the defense industrial sector. Humanitarian agencies caution that Gaza's basic services remain catastrophically strained even during lulls in active fighting. Food, water, fuel, and medical supplies are still inadequate, and aid corridors are fragile. Diplomatic mediators, notably Qatar and Egypt, with the United States backing, continue shuttle diplomacy to finalize additional hostage releases and longer-term confidence measures. But the ceasefire remains precarious, and any renewed strikes would quickly undo nascent relief steps. We see analysts stress a dual reality. Israel's short-term economic and fiscal planning signals an eye towards recovery, yet political and security risk, regional actors' reactions, Iran's proxies, and on-the-ground conditions in Gaza make that recovery quite uncertain. The next diplomatic days will determine whether the pause becomes a durable freeze or a brief intermission before a larger confrontation. And still on the wars around the globe, we see that over in Ukraine, in a dramatic escalation of cross-border operations, Its forces launched a large drone barrage into Russian territory, striking the Volgograd industrial area and causing at least one death, according to Russian officials. The strikes, reported as a 70-plus drone salvo, in some accounts targeted refinery and energy infrastructure and disrupted domestic flights across parts of Russia. Kyiv has increasingly used long-range drones to pressure Russian logistics and energy nodes. Simultaneously, fierce fighting continues at key ground sectors inside Ukraine, with both sides reporting casualties and positional gains and losses. Western analysts see the strikes as evidence of Kyiv's growing reach and willingness to target economic infrastructure to degrade Russia's war-fighting capacity, a strategy that carries escalation risk and complicates diplomatic avenues for ceasefire. We see the broader implication, which is the conflict scope is not strictly territorial but economic and logistical, and strikes on refinery and supply hubs reverberate through energy markets and raise the stakes for NATO and neighboring states, which must weigh escalation control against support for Ukraine's defensive and deterrent operations. Ukraine's drone strike deep into Russian territory, it signals a transformed frontline dynamic where logistics, energy hubs, and morale matter as much as trenches. Meanwhile, across the globe, we've seen that in New York City, Zoran Mamdani's win reflects a generational shift. Nigeria's refusal of the United States Religious Freedom Designation underscores rising African diplomatic confidence, and the Miss Universe controversy in Thailand showed that dignity is non-negotiable even in beauty pageants. With Israel, its economic planning and host state diplomacy highlights how war and recovery now intertwine. And back at the Cameroun's border, Ambazonia's blockade, we see it combines liberation rhetoric with geopolitical concerns. And each of these stories today on the Flash News reminds us, in a world of seismic change, whether it is war, politics, or culture, we see the human element of respect, voice, and power remaining central and core. Well, with that, we've come to the end of today's Flash News. Until next time, we'll leave you with ABC Amba TV images. Thank you for watching.